is Sandra Rudnick, and I was born in Cardiff, South Wales. I am Lily Polstein's grandmother, lucky for me, and I now live in Beverly Hills, California. I came to this country from England when I was 21, and I've been here ever since. When the war started, I was 3 years old. That was in 1939. I lived with my mother and father and baby sister, and we lived in Wales in a house with a nice big garden. And unfortunately, Cardiff, where I lived, was one of the first cities that was bombed during the war, and our house was bombed. We were bombed out of the house. We were in the cellar at the time. I can remember my father bundling me up in a quilt and taking me down into the cellar. The bomb fell in the garden, fortunately, not on the house. But at that point, we felt it was time to maybe move. We did, and we went to the north of England to stay with my grandparents in a place called St. Anne, which was on the ocean. For the entire war, my father and grandfather, they were members of the Home Guard. My mother had 3 brothers, one of whom was a conscientious objector who would not fight, but he went and became a coal miner. My other 2 uncles both joined the army, and one fought in India, one was in Europe, and one of them helped to liberate one of the concentration camps. Well, during the war, I mean, they were both students, and so they were no longer students, they were in university, so they were fighting. The whole country drew together because we were a very small country, and Hitler had stormed across Europe, and we were the only thing between him and complete victory. We had a wonderful prime minister. His name was Winston Churchill. And he said no Nazi was going to step foot on England. That was the way he said Nazi. The English are feisty, and they stayed with him. Are you smiling because I said I was feisty? The Germans would send waves of big bombers over, and they bombed London every single night. England had 2 fighter planes, a Spitfire and a Hurricane, small and looked as though they were held together with paper clips and tape. But they were agile, and the pilots were very young and didn't have the sense to be scared. And that is when Winston Churchill made a statement to the country. He said, "Never in the history of mankind have so many owed so much to so few." Everybody lived in the subways. So this was a very radical change in lifestyle for everybody. Food was short, limited meat. Whatever was there was limited. I personally was not particularly aware because I was so young. I was 3, 4, 5. My family was very aware, as were all the Jews of England. The women in the family all went every day to roll bandages. Even the children collected silver foil and put it into balls. I'm not quite sure what anybody did with it, but that's what they did. The bombing was non-stop. As a child, I didn't feel that. I just heard what my parents said, and it didn't really register too much at that age.
Hello, my name is Paul Rudnick, and I'm Lily Polstein's grandfather. She's asked me to talk about any experiences that World War II had upon my life, and not directly, except for my father, who was a soldier and member of the Corps of Engineers and served 2 years in North Africa, Italy, and France. Here is a picture of my father, rather casually dressed in his uniform, and if you'll notice the insignia on the sleeve, and here it is right here, and here is the insignia for his Corps of Engineers, since he was building bridges and airfields, and this was the insignia from his dress hat. And this is a letter that my father sent to myself and my younger sister, and referring to it as a great war. which is an unusual description nowadays, as the last 3 wars the United States has participated in have not been very popular. From a personal point of view, I was in Japan for 2 years in 1959 to 1961, and we lived in Hiroshima. It was, as you know, one of the 2 cities that was bombed with the A-bomb. The top picture is a photo of Nagasaki before the blast in 1945, and right below it was a few days or a week or so after the blast. You can see the total destruction of the entire city of Nagasaki. The things and some of the ways that it affected at least my memories of World War II.
One has to wonder what would have happened if England had not managed to dig in its heels. It was getting bombed every single day and night. Well, it was a great relief that we were still on our feet, and the whole of England erupted in joy. The church bells were ringing, and it was just, I can still remember it, it was just wonderful. And then we had to settle down and repair all the damage that had been done. Canterbury has a cathedral with the most magnificent stained glass, and it's huge, absolutely massive. Took out every piece of glass, numbered every piece of glass, and buried every piece of glass. And when the war was over, they took it all out and reassembled it, and it's as beautiful today as it was when it was built in, I think it's the 18th century.